All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody. So I want to say you got it here, so I get that off my screen. And welcome Jim Mathis, our judge. As you guys know that Jim's judged for us several times in the past and done a really good job. So welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
And the only old business I have is we talked about this briefly on the last meeting, and I'd like to get a few more people to chime in here at some point, to join in here at some point. But we need to get I want to set up a business meeting sometime just with, no photos or anything like that, just to discuss some stuff with the club going forward. And with that, I was going to see if anybody had any new business they wanted to bring up, or any exhibits or shows they're doing. Nothing.
It just seems like our membership's pretty puny anymore.
Well, yeah, it has. And then we got a lot of people that just don't tune in every time. I'm kind of surprised Bill Schaff wasn't here. I don't know, unless he's got something going on. But yeah, it's getting a little puny. That's something I want to talk about just with members, and kind of bounce some ideas around. So if nobody has anything else going on, I'm gonna give the meeting back over to Jim Mathis, and I'm gonna let him go through our photos, and then if we have time, Jim, if you got some stuff you want to show us on painting with light. I will interject one comment about painting with light that I've kind of something I've seen that, to me, it looks like color does painting with light you get a better rendering with color than you do black and white. Then again, maybe I haven't found the right black and white combination for painting with light either. I don't know, but I've looked at a lot of examples, in the last several weeks, or a couple of months, and the black and white ones, there's some out there that really look sharp, but the color ones just pop. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place. But anyway, Jim, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, thank you. First of all, I do not consider myself a judge. I'm not don't like that idea at all. But I can tell you what I like and comment on pictures, and then I went ahead and put your pictures kind of in order the way I liked them, but that doesn't mean they're one's better than the other. It just means that this is one that kind of stood out to me or whatever. So anyway, that's the preface. I also think Bill gave me a choice of which months, and I saw the light painting. I thought, well, that sounds pretty interesting. I've had a little experience doing light painting, not as much as I like, and I'm planning on doing more, particularly after thinking about it here for a couple of days, got me inspired. So hopefully this year I'll get more light painting done. First time I encountered the idea of light painting was at the art gallery at the Phoenix, Arizona airport. I don't know if it's still there, but there used to be one of the rooms was an art gallery, and they changed the art out, every few months. I had been there and flown in Phoenix for a while, so I don't know if it's still there. But anyway, it was a series of photographs by a guy named Black, I think. I was going to look it up, I forgot. But it was all night shots of the desert. He'd gone out in the desert and painted cactus, and there's flowers that only bloom at night in the desert that you don't see because they fold up during the daytime, and painted them with flashlights and things like that. And I spent quite a bit of time there studying. I thought, man, how did he do that? At first I thought he had the camera on a tripod. He went around and hit them with a flash, which you may have on some of them, but some of them were obviously not with just the flash, but with other things. And I eventually figured out he lit them with a flashlight, or some sort of a point light source or something like that. So with a long exposure. So then that was like 30 years ago. So since then I got a little more interested, and then I kind of go in spurts, like I was doing light painting, a few years ago, and then I kind of got out of the habit. And so maybe I'll do it again. I thought I might do a start, and I don't know how familiar you guys are and how many did it or how far along, but I came across a video I thought I'd show first.
Okay.
Let's see if this works. Can you see and hear that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That loves to create in the dark. Typically, you can find me photographing starry landscapes out west or creating beautiful light painting portraits in the city. So today I have 5 light painting tips for you. Let's get started. Light painting is the art of creating with a long exposure and using a light source to paint your subject. There are a couple different techniques you can do here. One is where you don't show your light source. A lot of photographers use this when they're doing astrophotography and they want to light up their foreground. So they'll kind of go from behind the camera. They could even go left or right, or even from behind, where they light up their foreground in a way where you don't see the light source. Another technique is where you actually want to see the light source and you're doing really creative things. So people use light tubes, they use sparklers, they use Brillo pads and light them on fire. Basically, this is when you make your light designs the star of your photo. Lastly, there's a type of light painting called kinetic light painting, where you're not actually moving any lights, but you're moving your camera. And you can do some really interesting things by zooming in and zooming out your lens during the exposure, or panning left or right, or even just shaking your camera. All right, guys, let's get started with the tips. Tip number 1, bring the right gear. First, you need a camera. Yes, you could use your smartphone and put it in night mode or use apps like Slow Shutter Cam, but I highly recommend using DSLRs or mirrorless cameras. On them, I recommend using a wide angle lens, and of course, you'll need a sturdy tripod. I also recommend having a remote trigger. It'll save you from running back and forth, but you can also use a delayed shutter speed, like a 10 or 2 second delay, and trigger it and then run and do your light painting as well. Lastly, you'll need a great light source, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Tip number 2, understanding your camera settings. First of all, let's put the camera in manual mode. Then we're going to talk about how shutter speed, aperture, and ISO all affect your shot. Let's break it down. Shutter speed is the amount of time that the camera sensor is exposed to light by the shutter opening and closing. So shutter speed controls the ambient light of the photo. Aperture is the hole in which the light comes through, so it controls the flow of the light. So aperture controls the artificial light. So if you have a flashlight and your flashlight is too bright, you can close your aperture and the flashlight light in your shot will be dimmer. ISO is the overall sensitivity of the sensor. So I don't have any perfect settings for you guys to use, but I recommend starting with the lower ISO and experimenting with shutter speeds and aperture to get the perfect shot. Tip number 3, scout your location during the daytime. This is super helpful for creating composition and for also finding objects to light paint. It also is really helpful to see what the terrain is like so that you don't trip. If you're in a city environment and you have a location picked out, make sure there's no street lights or any artificial light that might ruin your shot that are on constantly. And if you're in the wilderness, check and use apps like SensorBear or Photo Pills to see where the moon might rise, because that may also interrupt your scene. Tip number 4, try out different light sources. Flashlights, video lights, strobes, each different things in your light paintings. And I want you to see their effects. I use flashlights a lot with light modifiers, like light painting tubes and light panels, and also light blades. I use strobes a lot when I'm trying to freeze my model. I also use video lights when I have static subjects, like arches or abandoned cars. I challenge you to grab some light sources and see their effects. Tip number 5, bring your friends. Light painting with friends is so much fun. Not only can they model for you, which is awesome, but they can also share their creativity and experiment together and learn about photography. So that sums up my 5 tips for today. But I want to invite you to come join me on a light painting photo adventure. For more information, go to photoadventures.com or follow me on Instagram at Susan_Magnano. I would love to see what you create. I hope we cross paths somewhere in the dark, and be safe out there.
Thank you, Susan. There we go. Yeah, I've looked at it a couple of times and everything. Oh man, I got to get me one of those light wands, and I got to go. And what I was thinking about this morning is I kind of tend to go out by myself. And she said, take a friend and serve as models or help, have two lights. And oh yeah, it's a great idea. So that's something that maybe my wife and I can do this summer. Because when we go on a trip, I often take a tripod and a couple flashlights, and I never get around to doing it. But that's kind of what I want to do. So I hope that kind of gives you some ideas. And I think I'm going to start by showing you some ones I've done, and then we'll look at yours. And these are all fairly old, to tell you the truth. Let's see here. Let's start by. There you go. Can you see that record?
There we go.
This is actually one that it doesn't look like light painting, but it's actually a whole lot more complicated than it looks like. It's a 78 RPM record. And what I did is I put the record on the turntable in the dark, and then I lit the label with a flashlight I'm talking about setting the shutter speed like at 30 seconds at like F11 at ISO 200, something like that. And then, so just kind of flashed a few, 3 or 4 seconds with the flashlight on the label. And then I covered the label, maybe, I don't remember how, maybe with a hand or a piece of black card or something. And then I turned the turntable on, got it spinning, and then lit the flashlight on the tone arm. And so you can see the tone arm is moving and the grooves are moving. So the record is spinning, but the label is fixed. So it was one long exposure, but I did it in 2 sections. So that was kind of a little trick. I wanted this picture, and it took me a while to figure out how to do it. In fact, I got a whole bunch that didn't work. This is a little more straight shot. These are all in color because I think that's, like you mentioned, the color makes them stand out.
Just now this minute, so
And
your camera's off.
Hang on a minute.
this is actually in a camera store. I mean, a camera store, a music store hanging on the wall. I'd got the owner's permission to go in after they closed, and it was like 9 or 10 at night. And he said, he was in there working. I said, can I come in and take some pictures of your guitars hanging on the wall? Yeah, I'll be fine. So we turned all the lights out, and these are all just light painting, a whole bunch of. And then this is a little different. This is a violin. The way I did this, I had a little red keychain pin light thing. It has a little red light on it. So I laid it under the violin. So that's what the red coming out the side is. And in the dark, so only on continuous light source was this little pin light under the violin. And then I lit the whole thing by painting it with a pin light. So I thought it came out pretty cool. Most of these I did a whole bunch of, and you're seeing the best ones, obviously. This one is where the light source is actually in the picture. I had a ukulele, and my wife brought home a pineapple from the grocery store. I said, I'm gonna photograph that. So I got the uke out, which it actually wasn't even mine. It got loaned it to me. So I set it on a piece of black paper and painted the uke and the pineapple with a flashlight. And then I took my little red pin light thing and basically outlined behind the pineapple. There's like 2 swipes, and the little white lights, or I don't know what that is. It's just kind of streaks that showed up. So, you never know what you're going to get. The fun thing about light painting is it's all kind of a surprise. You can, and every time you do anything, okay, I'm going to do something slightly different, and be different next time. So you end up doing 20 pictures all kind of alike, and at least that's my experience. And it's addictive. You can't stop. Got to keep. I'm going to do one more. That's the advantage of digital. Back in the, I don't know how we did it in the film days. Just shot like, I first of all, I'd hate to take the negative to a photo lab and have them try to print some of those crazy things, but do it on like Kodachrome or something like that, which is slow, so it worked out pretty good. And then just shoot 36 of them. That's probably what they did. I didn't do light painting in the film days. I've only been doing it the last 25 years. And then one last one. I went over to our church one night in the sanctuary when it was dark, nobody's there. Went over and put the camera on a tripod, opened the lid of the grand piano, and painted the inside of the piano with a flashlight a few times. And then actually you can see I added grain. I kind of increased the contrast and increased the saturation. But I thought this was kind of cool looking. So this is actually inside of a grand piano. So those are just some samples of what I've done. These are all pretty old. Let's see. In fact, that one was done. This one was done in June 2nd, 2014. So I guess I haven't done any in 8 years. This is almost 9 years. So it's time to get busy again. So now let's look at yours assigned. Let's start with this one. Why do I need to get rid of this thing there? There we go. I had to actually blow this up to see what it was. It's pretty interesting. I realized that I don't remember whose this was, but it looks like some sort of a template with the light behind it. It's just kind of interesting light, but I guess
it was Jim Schultz.
Is it Jim Schultz? Are he here? Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
What is this?
Actually, it's a metal bar that's kind of a multi-tool for nuts and bolts.
That's what I thought it was. I mean, I've seen those. In fact, I think I have something like that I used to carry with my bicycle bag, because it was just like a real flat, light metal thing, but it served as like a multi-size wrench. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you just lit it behind.
Yeah, I took a flashlight and kind of played around with it in the back. I didn't have a whole lot of enthusiasm, but so
That's all right.
anyway.
I mean, to me, this would be a cool background for something else. I mean, I've seen record albums like this with the band name in front of it, you know, just as a graphic. So as a graphic design, it's pretty cool. What are your other thoughts on that one?
What are you using for a light source there, Jim?
Flashlight.
Flashlight. Okay.
Yeah, the flashlight's kind of the standard light painting tool, and I have when I was a few years ago when I was doing more of this, I ended up buying. I like flashlights, anyways. I ended up getting a little collection of them. You know, a pin light. They just which little bitty one you thump your thumb on, and you know, little keychain lights that like that red one. Those come in different colors, and I got a great big, you know, 5,000 candle power flashlight that I planned on using for painting, you know, barns and things like that with it. I haven't ever done it, but that's I may do that this year. Go out in the country and, you know, because it's light, it's powerful enough that you can light up trees from 50 yards away and that kind of thing. And with a 30-second exposure, you can get some, you know, a lot of stars and everything. And so that's kind of the idea. It's like she mentioned in the video, the shutter speed kind of gives you the ambient exposure, but the aperture gives you the exposure for your light source. The same as if you use a flash, you know, the ambient light is controlled by the shutter speed, but the subject from the flash is controlled by the aperture, even though they both affect exposure. It's kind of a weird thing you haven't thought about much. Okay, next one. What is this?
That is a three-dimensional thing that my wife bought years ago, I think at Victoria Trading Company. And we bought it for Halloween. And since we put it up, it remains hanging from our living room ceiling over on one side of the room. That thing is about 13 inches across, you know, from top to bottom.
Okay, so it's pretty big.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
And like I say, yeah, he's got bright red lips and got a lot of color, you know, a lot of colors mixed in with it, but kind of like a Victorian crescent moon with a face.
I think I've seen this before. You know, in fact, I first thought maybe this is Christmas tree ornament or something, but I don't, but it's just a sculpture. What's it made out of?
Some kind of a plaster is on, actually got a wood frame in it, because when we bought it, it was the only one they had left, and there was one tip of it was chipped. And we was actually, we bought it and we went ahead and we actually were able to repair it and match the paint on it. And so once we put it up, she says, "You're not taking that down. That's staying up." I thought, okay, I'll leave it up. So,
It's certainly interesting. Yeah.
and I can tell you, my light source, my light source on this is our TV.
Yeah, with did you light it with a flashlight or something like that?
I lit this with our big screen TV.
Oh, really?
It's hanging about 2 feet in front of our big screen TV, and it was on when I'm looking at it, and I thought, okay, that's lighting it up.
So the TV is the light?
The TV is the light source,
That's clever.
and the background is just our ceiling.
Sure. Okay. Well, it's dramatic. I like it. This one's, I guess I can blow it up a bit. I think I got too big here. I'm probably trying to get to stop in the middle. Anyway, this is the kind of thing I like as far as light painting. This is one that probably is just as good in black and white as it would have been in color. By the way, these are in order, kind of how I like them. By the way, I'm not saying I'm judging them, but I like that. Each one I like better than the previous one. Is what I'm saying.
I used 3 flashlights to light that.
3 flashlights?
Yeah.
At the same time, or one at a time, or?
Well, one of them was kind of floating around, and the 2 of them were stationary.
Okay, yeah. It could have been done any number of ways. I mean, it could have been just in a studio with with a spot or a softbox, or I mean, this is a good advertising piece, or it could easily be an ad for the rum brandy, I guess it is, plum brandy, old plum brandy. I just not could read it. I mean, this could I can see this in a magazine, with the get your brandy here. So it's almost a commercial looking shot. In fact, it is commercial looking. So, and by using, I guess the candle's lit, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. This would have been hard to get the candle to show if you'd used, regular studio lights, but by using flashlights, you get the light level down enough and long enough exposure, you can see the candle. So this is cool. This is pretty cool. Let's see. And, this is Dennis. Is Dennis here?
I'm not sure if Dennis is with us this evening or not.
It took me a little bit to figure this out. I looked at it. This is kind of a ghost look. Oh, it's in the mirror. When I saw the sink faucet down below, oh, he's standing in the bathroom or someplace, or looking at. I think it's in the mirror because there's the camera, and I don't know what the light is, but it's he obviously was moving the light, and I just now noticed what looks like Batman something there. Maybe it's Batman shorts on. I'm not sure, but this is a picture that makes you stop and look at it for a while. That's for sure. What is going on with this? It looks like he looks like a I think he was moving, so it looks kind of like a ghost.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I like that. I don't know. It's got a lot of reflections and stuff, so I think that's probably just off the, whatever was around it was reflective. So that's the kind of thing, with the light paint, you never know for sure what you're going to get. Just kind of do stuff and say, I like that. That's pretty cool. Oops. And then this one, like a patio. This is one of those that have been probably hard to photograph any other way. You can see this night. It's obviously at night. It could have been, probably like a 30-second exposure. I've seen light paintings where they use like an hour exposure. So the stars really stand out and then light the thing with just a few seconds of the flashlights. Whose was this?
That was mine.
Is this your?
I used to do real estate photography, and this is one of the backyards of one of the houses I shot a few years ago.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
And yeah, it's actually a couple of different, it's about 25 different images that I've kind of blended together. So I'd like
Really?
paint a little area. I actually use a flash, and I walk around and I call it flash painting. It's kind of
That's so you use an open flash, have a long exposure, but open flash.
Yeah.
Just pop the flash in different places.
Yeah, basically the flash. I've got a wireless trigger on the camera with a wireless trigger on the flash.
Yeah.
And then I set the camera off with a remote trigger, and just walk around and light various areas of the scene.
Yeah.
And then I blend them all together. I consider it light painting. A lot of people don't.
So
No,
it's,
that's not real light painting.
stacked, so it's not one exposure, it's multiple exposure.
Correct. Yeah.
That's even more impressive.
I've
I
done
thought-
that a lot. I do it a lot. I do cars and houses and backyards and all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's interesting. I like it. That's a technical challenge. That's why it stood out. I wasn't sure how you did it. I thought it was one long exposure with a big, flashlight of some sort.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, it's possible you would get something real similar if you just had a big umbrella in one shot, but this is better because you don't have any shadows except where there's supposed to be. You don't have any. Looks like it's from a light source or anything. So anyway, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, look at the way he's even got the light in that fire, or the fire in that fireplace.
Yeah,
You know,
that's another giveaway. Because if it'd been a big flash unit, you wouldn't see the fire.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that the fire in the fireplace blends in
Mm-hmm.
is the correct exposure, that kind of tells you it's a multiple exposure. You're right. When you look at all the little details, yeah. Even if it was only two shots, you'd had to done the fireplace separate, whatever. So I've
Right.
seen it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. That's a good one. And then the last one of the assigned subject was Captain Morgan. And I'm not a big rum drinker, but I just thought this was a really great picture. I know this is the one that jumped out at me. In fact, there's a song about drinking Captain Morgan or something like that. But I like the nautical stuff. I guess this is a pulleys and the rope and everything would look nautical, look like something off of a pirate ship. And Captain Morgan private stock rum there. Just kind of, I mean, this would be a perfectly decent ad. And it looks good in black and white. I don't know if the color would have helped it any. I mean, that's kind of, I do both black and white and color, and I'm usually saying, well, is the color hurt or help? And I think this one probably is better black and white. I mean, I don't know what it would look like in color, but I often switch back and forth. And I also like I like the brown tone too. That's kind of cool looking. So was this with the flashlight, or how did you light it? Who's this?
The first exposure is a 36-inch softbox
Uh-huh.
sitting down pretty close to it. I figured that part out pretty quickly. Then I had to figure out how to use the flashlight. So I thought, well, I've ultimately got to be in the bulb mode. So I shot that in complete darkness with the flash, then took out a pin light, like you said, and did about a 3.5 second exposure with the pin light, just roaming around the objects and stuff there. So
Right, just kind of highlight it.
right. And like you, I had some problems with a lot of the exposures. Either I got my hand in front of something I shouldn't have or something, but some of the labels weren't exactly kosher when I got done. So, but that one I think turned out the best anyway, because I got some of the light painting on the pulley on the right-hand side and the left, and I got the rope, and so it all came out good in the end, but it's kind of a technical shot, so.
Yeah, and I mean, the rope and everything is just crisp. Like I said, it looks, I mean, it could easily be an ad for Captain Morgan, and if it was running in black and white just like that, it would probably stand out against color photos in a magazine because it's different. So it's that this was my favorite of that group. So if you want me to place them, I would say Captain Morgan Bill is 1, the Fireside Travis is 2, Dennis is, you call it too much time on my hands. I like it's a ghosty bathroom picture of me. That would be 3, and then 4th, I guess, would be the Plum Brandy, and then the other 2 I would call honorable mention or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so they're all perfectly fine, but I just put them in order the way I like them. So don't. That's just for one person's opinion for what it's worth. Okay. Shall we talk about the open class?
Go for it.
This is obviously a Caterpillar. That's what I think of it. Is this a Monarch Caterpillar?
Yes.
Yeah. With a macro lens, I guess, or just got close.
Yeah, no, it's a macro shot.
Yeah, yeah. Did you do anything special on the lighting, or was it just the way
This was natural lighting. It was out full sunlight, but he was so deep back under the plants that the light came down pretty filtered. It looks like I set up a lighting, but I didn't. I played with what was there. This is
I wouldn't.
light.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I didn't. It didn't look like it was lit, but I didn't know if you put it like a black card behind him or anything like that. Some people do that.
No. That's
insects or flowers. You just take a little black board and stick behind them, and it could have been that. But you got some detail on the backs or some lighting. So anyway, it's pretty cool. And this one. It says boat motor. Who was this? I forgot already. It says Tom. Tom, you were here. I think so. I think I saw him. Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay.
That's
I'm trying to figure this out. What's the spark plug? The spark, is that the head?
yes.
Cylinder
Yeah,
head?
yeah. These are those boats that they race in the lake with remote control.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Yeah, this was down at Lake Havasu, and they had a boat race down there, and we walked around. These were, of course, static. You know, they were working on them, and so we took some pictures. I got some pictures of the racing too, but
So
it's pretty neat. You know, the boats are probably 24 to 30 inches long, and they really move.
I couldn't quite figure this out because it didn't look like a very big motor. It looked like a single cylinder with kind of like a lawnmower carburetor, but it said, you know, like Budweiser Racing on it. What's the deal? So that
Yeah.
I was totally unfamiliar with that. Anyway, this is a perfectly fine picture, but I worked on this a little bit. Want me to show you what I did? In fact, let me see. I'm going to pop it up in the Photoshop here. I'll remember what I did to it, but I guess you can see me pull that up a bit more. I typically start with camera raw filter. I don't shoot necessarily everything in raw, but don't see a huge advantage in it. But I always open up the camera raw filter. There it goes. Because then I can, it's easy to adjust the highlights and everything. And it seemed like it was kind of hot. Pull the highlights down, pull the blacks down a little bit more. And these texture and clarity and dehaze are pretty cool. The clarity is often overdone. It kind of makes it real harsh or make it soft, but the texture sometimes kind of spark it up a little bit. No pun intended, spark it up a little bit. And,
That's
we're just
okay.
in the,
It's my
we're just
new
seeing
eyes.
your bridge.
I was telling the guys earlier, I just get cataract surgery, so everything's a little bit brighter to me than I'm used to. So maybe I was just got back from having surgery, so maybe it looked really bright, but I liked it a little bit.
We're just seeing your bridge screen. Is that what we're supposed to be seeing?
Do what?
We're just seeing your bridge, Adobe Bridge screen.
You're not seeing,
No, you'll have
Yeah.
to
you're not
either move
seeing,
it over or.
well, let me tell you what I'm doing here. Okay. Now do you see it?
Yeah, there you
Okay, I didn't know when I opened Photoshop, I didn't know I had to change screens.
go.
Okay, now that would do the whole thing again. Okay, I'm looking at Photoshop and I'm looking at the, I'm adjusting the exposure. I turned it down just a little bit. Okay, I'll remember in the future, like switched, I got to change screens. And then I was see, I guess I turned the highlights down. And it's probably already probably already enough texture. The texture thing may not make it much difference. In fact, it might help a little bit, turn it down. And then I have this little thing, my style or whatever you want to call it, is I like the vignette stuff. So under effects down here, you pick the vignette, pull it down like that. It kind of makes the spark plug jump out a little bit more. So there, you see the difference. Oops, I should have made a copy of that so I could flip it back and forth. But I think this is better, darker, and so the spark plug and the thing kind of stands out a bit more. So I'm going to now go back to share another screen. Do this one here. Okay, so here is what I did. This is what I did yesterday when I was playing around with this. It's not quite as dark, but I also then blurred the background. I didn't, I thought maybe the Budweiser sign was a little distracting, so I kind of just changed it a little bit. So anyway, here was the original version, which is fine. It just, to me, it seems kind of bright. I'm glad you explained it, because it didn't look like a regular cylinder head to me, but it had a spark plug on it. It's only a single cylinder engine on it. This is really weird. Okay, next picture. I like this because I grew up in the country, and the place, 50 yards from the back of our house looked exactly like this. We just called it the woods. We went back in the woods. My brothers and my cousins, we'd go out and play in the woods. It looked exactly like this. And I don't know where this is, but it's real familiar looking to me. And I'm just kind of, there's an emotional picture, you might say. Whose was this? This was Bill Schwab. You went ahead, yeah. So, and also the sepia brown tone helps a lot.
Jim, that's in the corporate woods area.
Is it really?
It's behind the Chipotle at the corner of the strip mall. Just walked out of the woods and it's.
Yeah, I remember. I know I've been there. That's what you don't have to go. Point is, you don't have to go very far to be in the country around here.
That's true.
Nature is right underneath the concrete. Somebody said.
And it's brown toned. I just like the look of the brown tone. I
do too.
I think it's richer and sexier than the normal black and white. But that's just my opinion.
Well, I agree with you. I think it adds a lot. Yeah. So that's my next favorite. And then this is one of those pictures that you'll love 20 years from now. And the guy said, "What? How'd you spend your youth?" Well, I was looking at my phone. So, who is this?
That's mine, Bill Stoudemire.
Is that your son?
It's mine. It's my grandson.
Your grandson? Oh yeah, okay. So
And
anyway, it's just a character study, I'd call it. Yeah.
This was at Christmas time, and I just happened to like the pose there.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's just it's a good portrait. Yeah. And I don't know if I like the angle, but it's, I mean, I would just kind of like everything straight, but this is fine. It probably helps it. I haven't really got totally used to turning my camera at different angles, but when I do, it often really makes it look kind of different, kind of cool. So I guess you're low looking back. I'm not sure.
Well, I didn't want to get his face in there too.
Yeah.
They higher might have messed it up.
Yeah, you had to get down because he was looking at his phone, so you had to get down pretty close to the ground to look up at him. Yeah.
Fortunately, he wasn't paying attention to me.
This is to me, this is a good portrait. It's a character study, whatever you want to call it. I like it. Whose is this? This is Gary. This is just a little house with a shadow of a tree. This is actually kind of reminds me a lot of this other one back here. In fact, now that I think about it, I might like the other one better, but this is just it's a cool picture. It evokes an emotional response for some reason or other. It's like, oh wow, yeah, I'd like to be sitting right there beside that little house. And I guess the picture is actually of the shadow of the tree. So anyway, it's
Yeah, it's I think it's actually a little schoolhouse out of Missouri town out here east of Lake Tacoma,
oh, okay.
north of Lee Summit here, and I like going out there and taking black and white photos. A lot of things that work real well with black and white photos, but I like the shadow and the white on the white little building, and also kind of like that window.
Yeah, the window's exactly the right place. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good that the tree is the shadow of the tree is beside the window. That's a good composition, and everything's in the right place.
Yeah, I think this time of year is the ideal time of year to take photos out there because you no leaves on trees, so you get long past shadows. If anybody's interested in going out and take photos out there, it's the ideal time right now because the sun's kind of low in the sky.
Yeah, this is good. If it was summertime or springtime, the tree would be leafed out and the whole thing would be in the shade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And this, where's this? This is just one of those. It's just a real strong graphic image. With the. This is it. Jim Schultz.
Mostly, I was intrigued with the textures and.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the corrugated metal over one of the windows is like, I guess that's how they fix the window. Just put a piece of metal over it. Yeah. and then nailed some old pieces of wood over to keep people from crawling in the window. I guess it's kind of. It just has a lot of questions involved with it. So it's just one of those that probably didn't really need to talk about very much. Just say, yeah, it's cool. And then this, I'm going to see if I can blow it up a little bit here. No. Anyway, I guess this is a bridge.
It's down at the 12th Street Bridge.
Yeah. In Kansas City. Yeah. I thought so. But it is just inviting. I mean, it makes you want to kind of drive down that road. I guess that's just, and it's cool that you can see the, what does it say, Racine wagon and something, or wagon and cart sign through the window. When I first, let me blow it up. Well, oops. Racine wagon and carriage, I guess, something like that. Yeah. There we go. And a little graffiti over here. This is one of the ones that works really well in black and white. If it was a color, it would the graffiti would probably be distracting. But in black and white, it looks it fits right in. I mean, I don't know what color the graffiti was, but it's typical. It competes with everything else. But it's black and white. It adds to the drama, and it just kind of makes you want to know where that road goes to. If you're not familiar with it, it's like, what's around it? It curves down there. So where does that road go? It makes you want to, drive down that street to see what's there. So this is my favorite of the group. So if I was actually, now that I've looked at them, I might change the order a little bit. I might, let's see if I move that one over there. So my favorite was the bridge, and then the old windows, and then the grandson, and then the building, and then the woods, and then the boat motor, and then the caterpillar. And there's nothing. It doesn't mean necessarily one's better than the other. It's just that's my order of the way I like them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. So. So, questions, comments, what else you want to talk about? I didn't know how long I was supposed to talk. That's 45, that's almost 50 minutes right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got plenty of time yet. Do whatever we want. I was
I didn't know if it was 30, 45 minutes or an hour or what, but that was.
Yeah. I was going to ask everybody, while everybody's on here, has anybody started playing with their bouquet shot for next month? I see heads going back and forth. Have you done that, Jim, that technique where you get your subject focused and the background is blurred with lights in it or bright spots? This bouquet, I guess what I read is a Japanese term for blur.
Yeah. Is it bouquet or bokeh?
I think it's bouquet. I think there's probably about two.
I thought it was bokeh.
Or bokeh. Yeah, I mean, I think there's about 2 or 3 different ways you pronounce it, and all of them point to the same deal. But the more I look into this, the more I like this. I like that topic. I like that. And actually, I found out I've got some shots I did recently that fall right into that category that I've been playing with. So I may already have my shot for next month. I just didn't realize it yet.
Yeah.
But,
so that's a bokeh or bouquet or whatever you do it. I just call it out of focus background. This makes more sense to me.
Right.
But you can be out of focus foreground too. And
Sure.
Yeah. And the traditional way of doing it is use a long lens wide open. In fact, I used to have a 200-2.8 that I did use for stuff like that. But actually, back in the olden days of portrait lens, we typically use in fact, the famous one that a lot of people use was a Nikon 105 2.5 and shoot either 2.5 or f4, and you were 4 feet away from the person. The background's always was out of focus. That's the traditional way. But there's a lot of people buying 1.4 lenses just to get good background out of focus, get good bokeh. I guess that's the new term. Only in the last 4 or 5 years have people talked about bokeh or bouquet or whatever you want to call it as anything other than just blurry background.
Right. And I found some that actually had the foreground blurred, the subject was clear or sharp, and then the background was also blurred, so the focal plane was out in the center of the photograph too. I've seen those. Those are interesting.
Have you used the neural filter in Photoshop for depth blur?
No.
Let me see if I can get that up here. Let's see, which one's Photoshop? Okay, I'm gonna close this. Now, not gonna save the picture. Yeah, here's let's try this one here. This is just the one I played with. This is me donating my, I guess you can see that. Yeah. Yeah, this is me donating my old glasses because that was part of, it was the last step in my cataract surgery was when I realized no longer need glasses, I gathered about 12 pair of glasses over the last 20 years and took them down and put them in the Lions Club box. So this may not work because the background isn't very far, but obviously this was shot. My wife took this with a phone. And the thing about a telephone, a smartphone is everything's always in focus, or generally. So there's a neural filter. This is the latest version. And one of the choices down here is, it's actually a beta, I guess, depth blur. Click on that. And there you go.
Ah,
Just like that, background's out of focus. And I'm going to see if I can, let's see here. And there's lots of adjustments. You guys' picture is always over my adjustments here. But anyway, you can, that one actually worked pretty good. You make the background hazy. You can change the focal range. Basically, there's all kinds of adjustments. Focal distance. But that one came out just about right the first shot. That's kind of unusual. Usually you got to dink with it. And then I always output it. You have choices how you want to output. I always put new layer with a mask. So then, so now I have a layer with a mask. There we go. So now I can turn it off and on. You can see what I did. And then if you paint on the mask with let's see here. Okay, paint the mask. Get a black brush up here. So if I wanted, see if this is working right here. Nope, go do it again. Okay, I got the layer selected, got a brush selected, got black selected. So then I can just paint in, whatever I want in focus. Maybe you'd never be able to do this with using a lens because you would not be able to get this out of focus and that in focus. Anyway, you can do whatever you want there. And then probably would just leave the whole thing out of focus. Otherwise it looks goofy. But so that's how that works. This is actually about the slickest. This is one of the slickest things to come along in Photoshop in a long time. And I use this a lot. But because of the controls in it, being able to adjust what's in focus, and if you want, basically control, it's actually a way to control depth of field in the computer after the shot. And this makes smartphones a lot more usable. Let's see.
yeah.
And part of my business is restoring old photographs. Here's one I did the other day. Watch this. This was actually a little old 3x3 that was dark. So I got it this far. And then as a bonus, I asked the lady if she wanted it in color. Yeah, I don't know. So neural filters, colorize. What's this? Just like that. And then if you want the background to be out of focus, let me see what this does. Depth blur. There you go. Now this is one that you would need to output it with a filter because normally the sofa would be let me get going here. Got to get the right color paint. Maybe the sofa would be in focus. The background would be out. How you want to do that there? More like that would look more, natural. I actually painted over her arm and it went back to black and white. In fact, I just realized I need to do it twice because I colorized it and then I used the same layer. So when I painted, used the mask, the color went away. But you get the idea.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that. But anyway.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. I'm not going to say it. But there's there's one I did the other day. Watch this. This was actually a little old 3x3 that was dark. So I got it this far. And then as a bonus, I asked the lady if she wanted it in color. Yeah, it's pretty slick. There's but there's. Yeah, it's pretty slick. There's. I'm not going to say it. But there's lot of cool stuff. Let's see here. Okay, there we go, back to me. Now we can see everybody. But anyway, that talking about Bocom, that's the I don't think it's cheap. Somebody'd say, well, that's cheating. No, it's not. It's using the latest technology, and you can just control whatever you want. And it looks pretty accurate. In fact, there's more adjustments on it. There's one that says more adjustments or something like that, and then you can actually get it pretty fine, and then you can use the opaqueness, to bring it the background a little bit more back in and so forth. So it's actually you can make it look as if you shot it with a 1.4 lens or whatever, or a or an Nikon 105 2.5 like we used to use for portraits.
Like on some of these photos I shot that fall into this category, I used my what I call my big lens. It's a 850 millimeter lens. So I was out in the backyard shooting some stuff, and
850 millimeter.
yeah, 856.
Everything's booking with that.
Pretty much, if you
depth of field's like 1 inch.
Yeah, the closest that I can focus with that is about 20 feet away. That's the absolute closest I can focus with that lens. Everything else has got to be out there somewhere. But yeah, that's one of my favorite toys in my toy box now. Is that big lens. And if I go full frame, it jumps up to 800 something millimeter. I forget now, 160 millimeter or something like that in full frame. So it's quite the animal. And I also got a 1.4 converter for it. So I have a lot of fun playing with that thing when I get it out.
Yeah, when need to be inspired new ideas. There's nothing like a new lens or a new camera to go out and basically start over sometimes, particularly with something really extreme, like 13 millimeter or an 850 millimeter or whatever. It kind of just gives you a whole new outlook on life.
Yeah, I was out at not Orland Photo here just I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, and stumbled around. I was back there just nosing around his used camera lens, just see what he had back there. I bought a little Pentax macro lens. I forget now what the specifics on the lens are, but I've played with that a couple of times. In fact, that Caterpillar, that was one I shot with that lens here right towards the end of summer.
Oh yeah, the macro, yeah.
Yeah. But man, I fell in love with that lens real quick too. It was a nice little lens. I got it for less than $30.
Really?
Yeah, it was used lens he had back there. So I got this one there, and I thought
it's a Pentax. Is it like a K mount or a screw mount, or was it?
It's K mount. And the reason I stick with Pentax is I have several old Pentax film cameras, 35 millimeter SLR cameras that use Pentax lenses, and I can put those on my Pentax digital camera and they work.
Yeah. Probably the autofocus doesn't work, but you don't need that.
No, autofocus doesn't work, but manual mode, you can shoot all day with them.
Yep. And a macro lens, you don't need autofocus anyway, because
Right.
I have a macro that's autofocus on my Sony, and I mean it works, but it'd been easier. It'd just be just as easy if it was manual focus. In fact, it's only autofocus. It doesn't have a focusing rate.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to kind of outsmart it.
Yeah. The only thing I haven't done lately, I haven't really been keeping up with. I want to go out and shoot some more sunspots with that big lens because I've got a solar filter for it, and I've shot some sunspots before, and I show those photos of someone. It's just a white disc with these black dots, and they're irregular white dots and they're in irregular patterns. You say, what in the world is that? It's the sun. You're looking right at the sun. And I'd like to really catch a real active cycle of sunspots. Or what would even be better yet if I could catch something like the International Space Station crossing the path to the sun, in my line of sight, and do a series of shots like that of it going across the face of the sun.
was gonna show you a picture. Now I can't find it. I had it up here and then actually lost it. Okay, let's see here. We're still there. Yeah, we are. Okay, talking about long lenses. This is just for entertainment purposes only. Let's see here. There we go. You see that?
Yeah,
That's an 800 f5, and that is
Yeah.
me in 1972 at the place I used to work. And you can see the price tag hanging down. It's a 34.50. That's not the lens, that's the tripod. So I saw that. Man, we sold that thing for $35. No, the tripod was $35. Anyway, I'm ever since then, I've not been a big fan of big lenses. That was a beast.
yeah. I got mine because, well, for two reasons. I wondered whenever since the day I saw this lens had hit the market. I was waiting for the price to come down, and then I like to do I like to do a lot of nature photography,
Mhm.
and I like to be able to get out there and get the image without having to get in their face to get it.
Yeah.
You know, get me a half a mile away or 3/4 of a mile away, and I can go crazy with it. And I love it because I don't have to disturb the wildlife just to get the shot.
Right. Yeah. Between, long lenses are good for sports and
Mhm.
wildlife. I think sports guys usually use probably either 400 or 600. If you're shooting from the dugout and you want to get a close up of the pitcher,
Yeah.
or guy sliding into third and you're behind the left, the first base dugout, then you need, I think they typically use like, you see them, mainly they use those Canon lenses that are white. I think they're like 600 f4 or something like that. So that's a typical use.
Yeah.
Well, if you're out in the, bright sunlight, like at the air show I did a couple of years ago, I used my 70-200 and put a 2-time adapter on it. And that got me a 400 millimeter lens. As long as
Right.
because you lose a stop and a half of light, a stop to a stop and a half of light with that thing. But if you're out in the bright sunshine shooting airplanes, it's
No, it's fine. Yeah.
actually just
If
just
you
fine.
assume you can hold on to it and follow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got an old manual. I think it's 70-300 millimeter. That I used on my manual cameras. I've gone to air shows and I've shot with that thing. Oh my God, that thing worked great for that because you could instantly. I like that because you can zoom in, you can zoom out, and yeah, you get some great shots with the camera like that. I took several years ago, and somebody asked me how I got those shots. And I told them I was using my car as a tripod. I was actually leaning against the car because there's no way I could hold a camera that still with that long lens on it, swing it around and stay anywhere. And these were all film shots, so there was no anti-shake on it. If it was blurry because I was moving, but got a lot of great shots like that. Just nice sharp shots of the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds flying around down here at the downtown airport. Yeah, that's kind of the same kind of setup you were using there, Travis.
Yeah. Well, if you don't want to shell out the money for those big lenses like that, there's a place over in Overland Park off of 87th Street called Rent Glass.
Yeah,
And you can actually rent. They've got some big stuff like the Nikon 200-500 millimeter. They got teleconverters. They got all kinds of lenses you can rent just for the weekend or for a week. And for real, for $50-$60 or so. And, so if you don't want to shell out the big bucks for one of those big lenses and you just want to play around with one, you can rent one from those guys. You can just rent it online, drive over there and pick it up and then drop it off the next day. You don't have to worry about shipping it. So,
Where is it?
so it's kind of in between I-35 and Antioch on 87th Street. So they're on the north side. A little shop, it's like a little office space area.
Hmm.
There,
I don't know who that is.
but it's called rentglass.com.
Huh.
So, and they rent lenses for Canon, Nikon, Sony.
I just rented that 100 to 400 last November. Really reasonably priced, nice lens. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a good place.
It's good to know.
Yeah. Mine happened to come along at the time when they dropped the price down to where it was reasonable. And I was getting ready to retire, and I cashed out one of my I'm trying to think of I cashed out one of my I can't think what it's called now, but anyway, I got some tax. I had some money that I didn't have to pay penalties on it because I was over age 55 when I bought it. So I bought my drone and I bought that big lens with that money. Still had a few bucks left over. So that was kind of my two retirement gifts to myself.
Yeah.
Cool.
My IRA, that's what I was trying to think. I
All
cash
right,
out one
yeah,
of my IRAs.
If yeah, if you didn't have to pay tax on it, it was a Roth.
No, it wasn't a Roth. They're traditional.
Oh, okay.
Because I found out a couple of years too late. If I buy one traditional IRA for me, one for my wife, we paid zero income tax.
Huh.
Huh.
So those years I bought those, we got all our tax withholding back. Kansas threw a fit over the first time we did that. That's the IRS rules, and Kansas abides by the IRS rules, so they audited me.
Yeah, usually the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does this meeting going to go to 8 or what time are you normally?
Oh, we can go around 8:30, whatever. Just, I mean, we can call off anytime we want to. It's just when everybody gets tired of yakking.
Okay, so I guess my question is there anything else? You have any more questions for me? Anything else you want to talk about? And if so, I will check out, let you guys have a party.
Okay. No, but appreciate you doing it for us, Jim.
Oh, anytime. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just you guys always have good pictures. You always do just black and white?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Club's been black and white since inception back in 1938. So we did get away from that one time several years ago. We shot an entry. We did an entry which was allowed actually, how I want to say this, a touch of color was allowed. So you could have a small part of the image would be colored. And the one that really sticks out is one Jim Jones did, where he shot a picture of one of the old Union Pacific steam locomotives. It was black and white, except for the big headlamp on the front of the engine was colored.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. That's, we did that several years ago.
See if I can find my black and white with a touch of color. Let me see if I can find one here I'm talking about there. I like to do that. I think that sometimes they call it spot color.
Yeah.
If I see the one I'm looking for real fast, I'll show it to you. Otherwise, we'll not waste much more time. There we go. See if this works. Okay, I'm going back to, now I'm going to try share screen. Bridge. There you go. Can you see that?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. This was down in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and it was actually raining. And we came out after having lunch and saw this old limousine all painted up on the street. And I took a bunch of pictures of it, but it was kind of a dull day and it wasn't particularly cool, or it wasn't particularly interesting. So when I got home, I masked off the car and then converted everything else to black and white. increased the contrast, and then I came back to the layer that had just the car on it and turned up the saturation and all that. So it's just, you know, it's I call it spot color, but it's really the car is much actually brighter than it looked, and the background being black and white really kind of makes the car stand out even more. So this is actually, we're talking about spot color. This is, or partly color. This is one I like. So I don't think you'd call this a black and white picture, but it's
Yeah.
it's mainly black and white. And I have a version of this in full color, and I have a version of it in pure black and white. And then I have this version, which is actually the one I like best.
Yeah, looks good.
So you can do all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I could probably open that up and try using the background blur and see what that depth blur is what they call it, and see what that looks like. Get rid of all the background. That might be interesting too.
That might be interesting there.
You
Yeah,
end up with 10 different versions of the same picture.
yeah. Well, I don't really have anything else on my agenda for this evening, folks. If anybody wants to discuss anything, I'm open, or if not, we can call it done. Jim, hope you get feeling better.
Yep, working on it.
Yeah. Get over that stuff.
So,
Okay, I'm going to
Anyway.
check out. Let me know. Let's see if I can do this. I said, how do I close just me?
Just go down.
I
the bottom right
I
corner,
guess
hit
just X out of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
Hey,
Jim. Hey,
Thank
Jim,
you,
before you
Jim.
go,
huh?
Jim, I'll send you a couple photos I've shot with that lens. See what you
Oh,
think. of
okay,
it.
cool. Yeah, yeah. If you guys will share anything with me, I'm glad to look at it, whatever. So yeah, this is always, I never get tired of talking about photography. So anything, anytime you want me to hang out with you, let me know.
All right.
So,
Appreciate it.
Oh, here it is down here. I now see the leave button. It's down in the left corner. I thought it was just me that's leaving. I guess it was down here. Okay.
Yeah.
See you guys later.
All righty. Thanks a bunch.